Welcome to another Tea and Natter. Thank you for coming back again. We are pre-recording this session because I'm having some internet problems with my internet provider. And so we're going to pre-record so we don't cut off halfway through. Tonight we're going to be talking to Alison Green, who is a crochet and knitwear designer who is currently on the design team for Berrocco. She is published in multiple magazines and books, and is a fabulous singer, and lives right here in Rhode Island. And so without further ado, I'm going to add Alison into the chat. Right. She's joining right now. Here we go. Hi, Alison.
Hello.
Hi. Thanks for joining us here on Tea and Natter. I'm presuming
My pleasure.
Have your tea. I have some tea. You don't have to have tea in your teacup. It can be any kind of beverage.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Well, I did. I told you to put tea in your teacup, but I had.
Yeah, you told me you were going to ask me what kind of tea I was drinking. So
yeah,
I was like, oh, so I can't have wine then? Okay.
You could pretend that
tea is great. I'll have wine in an hour.
Yeah, it might be a tad early yet. Maybe, I don't know. It's 1 o'clock somewhere, right?
I feel like in quarantine times, that I don't personally usually day drink on weekdays, but I'm not gonna lie, I've been known to on the weekends.
The lines are a little more blurred now, right? A little bit more blurred. So yeah, I heard that the sales for alcohol had gone up by 50% in the US over the last 2 months. I believe
that.
Don't quote me on that.
I am really the amount of booze that I've purchased that I've had delivered to my home through Drizzly, which is like a delivery site. It's brilliant. This isn't a commercial for Drizzly, but it's helpful.
That's genius. I don't think we have it down here on the island.
Oh, maybe not.
Maybe a bit too, backwards, kind of, maybe. But I know, I think we have got booze delivery, but I've always got to the point where, like, if I have to have my booze delivered, we've maybe gone too far. maybe.
I'm just not going to the liquor store and not, protecting the workers, because they just drop it on my porch. They call me and say it's there, and I go and pick it up. It's brilliant social distancing.
So I was going to ask you how quarantine was working for you, but apparently quite well.
Okay. No, it's fine. It was, I think it's taken me, so I'm working from home, like many of us. Berrocco, interestingly, actually has been able to stay open this whole time, but everybody who can work from home is working from home. So that includes the entire design team. Bless them, our customer service and our warehouse staff are still there, but they've got a lot of space, and they're wearing masks, and and particularly in the warehouse, I mean, it's a huge warehouse, and there's 4 people who work there. So, and in the office, there are 3 people, and they've got like a big room with a lot of space between their desks. So, but yeah, we've been able to stay open, and so I've been working from home, and it's been, I am not necessarily great at working from home usually, so I've had to really learn that skill. Particularly, I mean, especially at the beginning, I feel like I've kind of gotten into a new normal, but in the beginning it was like just all the anxiety and stress, and then trying to do my job, it was challenging.
And are you in a spot now where you feel like it's working really well, and you've got anxiety about the fact that you might have to go back to the office at some point?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm definitely really into this really nice rhythm of making my coffee and having my coffee on the couch, and then, okay, let me check my work email. Okay, let me do a few things. Okay, now I'm gonna go and cook breakfast, and let's take a walk in the neighborhood at lunch with my husband.
Nice. And he's working from home too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So and that was the other thing that was interesting too, is just figuring out well, how does this work? But he has, I mean, we're lucky because, I mean, even though we're in an apartment, it's a pretty large apartment for 2 people, and he has a workspace that's, he just goes in there, and that's his office, and my office is the living room / dining area. So, not that we really ever used the dining room table for eating, but now it's like, now one half of it is my workstation and the other half of it is mask making sewing station.
Got it. Yeah, the dining room table is like the new garage. Like, you don't actually store a car in a garage,
Right.
and you don't actually use the dining room table for dining anymore.
Exactly. We just eat on the couch. So
yeah.
Not gonna lie. But yeah, so but it's, yeah, I feel like it's, you know, I've gotten into such a nice routine here, and yeah, I think it is going to be tricky going back to the office eventually, but I feel like because I've gotten into such a good routine that I hopefully can work on my boss to be like, you know, look how productive we were working from home. Like, can't I do this a couple days a week, even
Right.
once we're back in the office?
And there's been, so you feel like it's working well with the rest of the design team, and you're doing like sort of regular Zoom and Skype things, and
yeah, it's been good. We have the design team, we have like an ongoing text thread with the four of us,
okay.
and we're always like chatting. So that's been really nice. And then, yeah, like the design team meets with the owner of the company every week. It used to be in our conference room, and now we do it on Skype, and
Right.
yeah, and it goes pretty well. You know, yeah, I think, you know, we're just adapting.
Where are you at, like right now, in like the grand scheme of things, like a work calendar? Like, where are you at with what's being designed right now? Like, what season is that? Like, how far ahead of the game are you guys?
Sure. Yeah, we are really like, we're really in the thick of it right now. Well, there's lots of different in the thick of it. So the way our season, we basically have 2 seasons per year. We have like spring, summer, and fall, winter in terms of our collections. So right now, my work is mostly focused on the fall, winter collection, even though we're still promoting our spring, summer collection, but we're, you know, frantically working on our fall, winter collection. So we designed it, and actually we're able to shoot. We designed it in like December, January. The garments got knit primarily in February, and we were able to have a photo shoot in March, just before everything, just before things.
I was just going to ask you that. How are you going to deal with the photography? But
we got it done. For most things, I mean, we had to shorten our shoot. We usually shoot over 2 weeks, but we shot over just, so we usually do like 2 days one week and 2 days the next week, because it just helps. It helps the work to spread it out a little bit more. Instead, we shot in 3 days, earlier than we were planning to. So we got all of our collections shot. Usually we also, because we publish a free pattern every week, pretty much throughout the whole year. So we weren't able to shoot all of those free patterns. And so we're going to have to somehow have some kind of a shoot, like in the summer at some point. We're figuring out what that might look like social distancing wise. It's going to be a little tricky, but anyway, yeah, so we were able to do that. Oh, and the other part that was really funny is I don't usually go to the shoots. I do a lot of the work behind the scenes. I do some of the designing, and I do a lot of like preparing the patterns, and I manage getting all the samples made. So I manage all of our sample knitters. Usually the shoot from Berrocco is just Amy Christophers, our design director, and our media director, who now is Margot Huffnagel, who's fabulous, and she just started in late December, January.
Talk about being thrown into the fire.
Oh yes, oh yes. And she was so excited about going to the shoot, but even like at the time that we had the shoot, it was like, even though it was, you know, it was like things were just starting to be like, like we just decided Margot shouldn't go to the shoot because she has a son who's got some health issues, and we just didn't want to risk anything for her. So I went in Margot's place, and the really fun part was that I modeled one of the collections.
Really?
Which, yeah, I'm not comfortable in front of the
camera. That's not my thing either.
I've done it sometimes for like some of our free patterns, like, because we try to get as many of those like professionally shot, as many of them into the real shoot as we can. But sometimes it's like, we have kind of a deal too, where it's like, if I want to make something for myself, that's going to be the knit bits. Like, instead of hiring one of our sample knitters, if I make it and then model it, I get to keep it.
Right.
So, you know, so there have been like times when I've modeled some of our free patterns and things like that, but modeling like an actual collection with like our wonderful photographer, Gail Zucker, was, you know, it was kind of fun actually, but it was, you know, but it was also like right when we were like, I think we're about to like go on lockdown in a minute.
I mean, Berrocco's shoots, they have a very distinct style. You can kind of tell it's a Berrocco photograph, like for, you know, Berrocco publication. And I know they kind of shot a lot of times somewhat locally to Rhode Island, or in Rhode Island, or local to, you know, your offices.
Yeah.
Can I ask where the shoot was this time?
Yeah, it was in, so 2 of the days were in, God, now I can't even remember. I'm like, where were we? I'm like, that just seems so long ago. That's like a lifetime ago, before like,
before all that.
It was in like, I want to say it wasn't in Portsmouth, but it was somewhere down there. Like, it was somewhere in South County. Huh?
You were in South County?
Yeah, we were in South County for 2 of the days in a house. Like, we basically rented an Airbnb, and it was like this beautiful, gorgeous house. I don't remember what town it was in. It might have been in South Kingstown, actually. Okay. I think it was in South Kingstown. Okay. And then we did the last day, which was the day that I was modeling, was in Pawtucket at the Hope Artiste Village.
Nice.
And you know, a studio there, and we've used that space before, so.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad you got the photos in. That's like,
I know, it really, if it had been a week later, like, we would not have risked it at all.
Right.
You know, but we just
would have been like photos from your phone, and
I have no idea we would do it. Like, we were sort of talking about like, well, what if we can't do this? Like, maybe we'll just shoot on mannequins, like,
sure.
You know, but it was like, and that it would literally just be like the design director and the photographer and nobody else. Cause we also have like a couple other people, like a stylist and, you know, makeup artist, but, yeah, it worked out. I mean, it worked out really well. And, you know, it was like, luckily it was, you know, it was just early enough that we could do it without feeling like, oh, we're like really doing something risky. It was like just before that it would have felt that way. So
I had somebody, some people sent in questions. And I had a question from Jenny in Boston. So I don't know if this is like somebody that we know or not. She didn't give me a last name. She wanted to know how you started designing in the first place. I mean, because it's been, I mean, what are we talking, like 15, 20 years now?
Yeah, I started designing, the first design that I ever published, I believe was in 2002 or 3, maybe 2003. So it's been a while. Yeah, so I started, working kind of in the knitting field. Like, I had been knitting since I was like a teenager, and then I lived in New York City. I was a theater major in college, and I wanted to be a theater director. And I moved to New York, and like very quickly was like, oh yeah, no, this is not the life for me. What do I do now? And people kept saying to me, like, oh, you're such a good knitter. Like, you should just do that for a living. And I was like, that's not a job. So I didn't really know what to do, but I ended up getting a part-time job in a yarn shop on the Upper East Side, and that didn't work out. The woman that owned that shop was like crazy. She actually is the only job I've ever been fired from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was fired for like no good reason. She fired like the other person who she had hired like the week before, and then she fired me, I think because I told her she couldn't photocopy knitting patterns and make them into kits.
Okay.
Seemed like kind of a no-brainer to me, but she didn't seem to like that. But I'm not really sure if that's why she fired me. Anyway, she fired me, but it worked out really well because I ended up getting a job at a wonderful, iconic store in New York City called School Products.
Okay.
which I believe is still open, and it is, or at least was, owned by this woman named Berrocco who had founded Karabella Yarns.
Okay.
Which I don't see much from Karabella anymore. I don't know. I actually don't even know if they're really still a brand that is distributed, but they had beautiful, beautiful yarns, including Aurora 8 was like their biggest one that was very popular. And she was a designer herself. She was from Moscow originally, and she had never worked from a pattern, but she could design these beautiful things and could just knit anything.
Right.
And she would design, she taught me a lot about design, so I got to publish a few patterns through Karabella. I also started writing knitting patterns for her, for Karabella. And which was all just like, I was sort of just learning on the fly. Like I was reading knitting patterns in order to learn how to write knitting patterns.
Because like we're talking like the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot of like computer programs out there or software out there.
No, not really. And I've never really even though now there are like pretty good software for like, especially for, I think for knitters, like if a knitter just wants to like make a sweater, I think the software that's out there is really good. Like I haven't used that much of it recently, but there's some good things out there. But for me, like when I'm designing, like I have pretty like specific ideas of how, like what I want the proportions to be for the grading that I've learned over the many years that I've been designing, and just from getting feedback from knitters about which like sizing standard tables are good and which aren't, and just help. Yeah, it helps to just know a lot of knitters and talk to them and ask them questions. But so yeah, I actually do all the sizing. I use like Excel spreadsheets and formulas.
Wow.
And dragging things around. So I've gotten really good at Excel, because like the thing that I love about knit design is like I was always really good at math, but I was never really excited about math. Like I wasn't interested in it, but it was an aptitude.
Right.
So, but I was always like much more of like, thought of myself more as like the artistic type. And so like writing knitting patterns and doing like technical editing of knitting is like I get to have the creative side of it, but but then I also like get to use the analytical part of my brain too. And that's fun.
But you're originally from Massachusetts. So at what point when you moved back up to Massachusetts, did you start getting involved in independently writing and not
yeah. Yeah, I did. I started, like even when I was still at school projects, there were like one or two things that I published independently. I don't even remember like what platforms we had back then to use, but yeah, I and then like it was like, pretty up with that, especially because in the Boston area, it was like the knitters in that area like all kind of know each other, and or at least did back then, and like so it was like I had like friends who were friends with the Ravelry people, and so like I got in on that, and yeah, I started designing independently. I was always teaching knitting, and that was kind of how I got into like technical editing, was because I was always teaching, and that really helped reveal to me like how patterns are badly written, because students would come to me and say, oh, this isn't working. I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. And it was like, oh, you're not doing anything wrong. Like the numbers don't add up, or you're not doing anything wrong. Like you just like, this is not explained well. So I started doing technical editing, of, just because I could see where knitters got tripped up. Yeah. And so I started, the sort of the designing, the tech editing kind of were going like hand in hand. Honestly, like the tech editing was much steadier income. Like designing as an independent designer, it's very difficult to make a living. And then meanwhile, I also always had other jobs. So because I just, so I was like piecing together an income from all these different things. And yeah, and then I interviewed at Berrocco for actually a different position. They were hiring for an assistant designer, and I thought, oh, that would be amazing. And so I had applied for that, and I didn't get it. And then, but they basically had earmarked me for another job that wasn't available yet, but they didn't tell me that.
Okay.
So then like you know, 9 months later or something, I got a call from Warren Wheelock, the owner of Berrocco, saying, hey, so we have this position that's coming open that we think you'd be really good for. Like, do you want to talk to us about it? And it was perfect because it was like my role there. I get to really do a lot of different things that use a lot of different parts of my brain, and it's really satisfying. And it brought me to Providence, which I love. So yeah.
And how long, like, so you moved from Massachusetts, where you were in Massachusetts, directly to Providence?
Yeah, I did. So it was 2014. I had been divorced for a couple of years at that point. I was definitely ready for a change, and I got, I got my dream job essentially. So I was like, okay, and I looked right around, like, so Berrocco is located in North Smithfield, Rhode Island. And I was like, I had never heard of that in spite of like having grown up, like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes away from there. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, what's in North Smithfield? And I'm looking, I'm like, nothing. There's nothing.
Beautiful.
Right. It's a great place. No, I mean, it is great. Like for people who have families, like they've got a really good school system, like, whatever, that stuff is great. But I was like, I don't have any of those needs. I want to be in a city. And so I moved, and I had been to Providence one day when I was 18. That was the only other time I had ever been in Providence until the day that I was looking for an apartment. And I literally had one day because when they hired me, they wanted me to start like in 2 weeks. And so I was like, I gotta find an apartment. So I was like, this is the day that I have available to look for an apartment. And and so I found like a pretty random apartment that I stayed in for just over a year. And but I love it here. It's the best place I've ever lived.
I mean, full disclosure, I'm in Providence every day of the week, when I'm not in lockdown, and I love Providence.
Yeah.
Love. I love Rhode Island and I love Providence. So.
Me too. And I feel like Rhode Island and Providence are both like just so underappreciated and just not even known. Like, cause I grew up in Lexington, Massachusetts, which is, like just outside of Boston, like an hour from where I am right now. Yeah. I didn't know anything about Providence. That one day that I went to Providence when I was 18 was because at the time, you couldn't get a tattoo legally in Massachusetts. And 2 friends of mine wanted to get tattoos, and I just went along for the ride.
Oh, sure.
Now I have 2 tattoos, but then I was like, oh no. Now I'm like, more tattoos, please. But the culture is different about tattoos now than it was in the 90s.
So if there are people that are watching that have never been to Providence, and there are many people, I mean, like you're in another part of the country and you go, oh my God, Providence license plate, like what? You never see those,
Yeah.
Like, what would you recommend if somebody was going to be here for a day? What would you recommend that they didn't miss?
Oh, wow. Well, I assume in this fantasy, it's not during the pandemic.
No, it's not during the pandemic. It's like during a beautiful sunny summer day, downtown Providence.
Yeah. So I mean, it's such a walkable city. So like if somebody had never been to Providence, I would recommend that they kind of walk around College Hill, walk over the pedestrian bridge, walk around downtown. There's so many amazing like bars and restaurants. At least there are right now, and I hope that there still will be in the future.
Right? Yeah, I know. Fingers crossed.
It really is like my favorite. Like the thing that I think makes Providence such a great tiny little city is that we have like Brown and RISD that kind of bring all this like creative and like artistic and intellectual life to the city. But then we also have Johnson and Wales.
I know.
That has this amazing culinary program, and a lot of those graduates stay. So like there's North and Big King are owned by the same owner, and those are like 2 restaurants that are like really, really high on my list. They used to have, I'm still sad, it's been like 2 years I think now, but they used to have a bakery as well, North Bakery, and I still miss it. Like I still to this day, like whenever, and actually in the location that used to be North Bakery is a wonderful little shop now, which is the Tricycle Ice Cream Sandwich Shop.
I didn't know that's where they were. I follow them on Instagram and I didn't realize that was their location. Oh wait, you pause a little bit.
And actually a few weeks before my wedding last summer, I was like, I was just near there. Oh, my internet connection is unstable.
You're still good.
Hopefully I won't have a problem. Okay. I happened to just pop in on a summer day and was like, I'm going to get one of these ice cream sandwiches. And it's like a real, it's like an artisanal ice cream sandwich with like this beautiful cookie. And like the one that I had that day was like Thai iced tea ice cream with like this shortbread cookie on each side. And it was divine. And I had been literally just planning, I have to order like cupcakes for my wedding because it was such a small wedding. I didn't want to do a big wedding cake. And I was like, forget the cupcakes. I'm having ice cream sandwiches at my wedding. And I did. It was great.
That's awesome. Oh, I need to go. Well, I can't go now. Obviously, I can't go now, but I did. Yeah. I didn't realize that's where they were. So that's good to know.
Yeah, it's great.
Exactly where they are.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So many great places. The East End is one of my favorite bars. What else? I don't know. So many good places.
There is. This is it's a good town. It's a good town.
It really is.
It definitely just continues to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really,
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We got some more questions here.
Sure.
I've got Mrs. J in Connecticut. Wanted to know which of your designs is your favorite.
Oh,
that's
like impossible.
I know. Yeah.
Oh wow, which is my design? I feel like I should like pull up my Ravelry page because I'm like, what have I even designed? I don't know.
There's like a couple hundred designs on there, so this could take a while.
I think, it is kind of like, it is, now that like everybody's doing Zoom things, like, I had one of our sales reps interviewed me and she was like, on your Ravelry design page, you have like 200 designs. So I was like, I do? I mean, so much of that work is what I've done since I've been at Berrocco. My favorite design. Oh gosh. I mean, I might have to just say my wedding dress. Like, and you said you were going to ask me about my wedding dress.
I did warn you that I was going to ask you about the wedding dress, which is fantastic. And if people haven't seen it, it's in Alison's Instagram feed. You just have to go back to last summer. Yeah.
No, and that was, and I say that partly, obviously it's my wedding dress, it's my favorite, but like, I designed that originally not as my wedding dress. I designed it because Amy Christopher is like in our collection, we had a new yarn that we had that was, that's 100% silk, but it's like a matte silk. It's not like shiny. I forget the name. I think it's Tussa silk. I'm not sure. I'm not very well versed in silk, but anyway, it's a more rustic silk, but it's so beautiful. And I love this yarn. And Amy said, I want you to design your wedding dress. Cause she knew I was getting married the next year. And I was like, well, okay, I will like do this design assignment. But like, I had a whole different plan of what I was going to like do and I was going to make my wedding dress. I was going to crochet it using like somebody else's crochet design that I had already picked out and started. I had already started this other dress. And, but I designed the dress for Berrocco and, in white, and she wanted it as like a wedding dress. And it was photographed and everything. And I was like, yeah, maybe that is my wedding dress. But I have to tell you this story about it, which like I think is kind of hilarious and very indicative of my lackadaisical attitude about things, which is that I had been knitting it. Like, so I knit it, like I started it well in advance of my wedding and I got it most of the way there. And it's top down, so you can try it on as you go. And I was doing that. And so I knew everything was going to be good. And then I had months left to go. And I was like, all right, I'll just like finish it later.
Right.
And then it was like a few weeks before the wedding. And I was like, all right, like, let me get this the rest of the way. And so I had it like on my coffee table, which I will tell you, typically it's better. Actually, now that I'm spending so much time at home, it's more neat than it used to be, but it usually was like
covered to a disaster right here.
So it's on my coffee table. And then one night I'm drinking rosé. At least it wasn't red, right? I was drinking rosé and I spilled it, on the coffee table, but it wasn't like, and I wasn't like that close to the dress and I like cleaned it up and my husband, my now husband, was, he was like, oh, it didn't get on your dress. I was like, oh, good. Okay. Whew. So I kept knitting, I finished it and everything, and then put it on. And there's like a stain, like right here, like.
And how small, like big?
No, it's like pretty large stain, and it was just like, and it was like sort of subtle, because again, it was rosé. It was like, and it wasn't pink, it was like kind of brownish.
Oh no.
Like beige-ish, like, and it was, and then I later discovered it was like on the back too. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So, and this, and at
wait,
this
how
point,
far are we up from the wedding now? Like,
yeah. Okay, so this was on a Monday. That was it was that weird holiday that we only get in Rhode Island, Victory Day.
Yeah.
So it was a Monday, and then at the end of that week, I was going on vacation for a week to this island off the coast of New Hampshire that I go, that's like literally a 40-acre island.
Okay.
With 200 of my closest friends. Random weird thing that I do. It's like a cult, basically, but not. It's not really a cult, but there are some cult-like aspects to it. It's like summer camp, but for all ages. Okay. So I was going there at the end of the week, and then I was spending a week on Star Island, and then I had one more week after that before my wedding. So I was 2 weeks out, one of which I was going to be on a tiny island in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
So I was like, okay, let's not mess around here. I'm going to bring it to a dry cleaner and see if they can get the stain out.
Right.
So I bring it to the dry cleaner and I explain what's going on. And they were like a little bit horrified. I think they were like, I mean, the woman like who was working at the dry cleaner, who's not the actual dry cleaner, she's like, we'll try, but we make no promise. I pick it up on Friday, the day before I'm going on vacation.
Okay.
In the ocean. And they couldn't get all the stain out. Like they got some of it, was partially, but not. So I had a plan B. And my plan B was, I said, okay, my coworker Donna is really great at dyeing clothing. I'm like, I will find out about dyeing from Donna and she will set me up with whatever I need and I will dye it burgundy. Because I didn't originally want to wear a white dress. Like it wasn't, I just was like, why do I need to wear a white dress? I did that once already. So I was like, I'll dye it burgundy and it won't show up. So I like texting Donna. I'm like, it was like literally, you know, and this was like the night before I was going on vacation. So I was like texting Donna. I'm like, they couldn't get the stain out. Like, I want to dye it. Like, what do I need to get? So she tells me what I should get. And she's going to lend me her dye pot and we're going to do this whole thing. But the problem is like, I would have, like, once I got back, I was going to have 1 week and I needed to have enough time to dye it and let it dry.
Right.
And then like, fingers crossed that it would look good.
It wouldn't be like an off, not quite.
And she was like, yeah. And she was really confident that it was going to work because, you know, she's like, the silk is going to take the dye really well. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be fine. So while I was on vacation, I ordered the dye that I needed. Like, you know, I had this whole plan and I was talking about it and telling the story to people that I was like in community with on my vacation. And then the last night I was there, I was at like this, they have like a banquet dinner the last night. And this person who was sitting at my table overhears me talking about it. And she goes, and she is somebody who collects vintage clothing.
Okay.
And she was like, wait, don't dye it. Here's what you need to get. It's called Retro Clean. And I was like, what the heck is Retro Clean? This is a product. It's totally natural. It's like a form of sodium. I forget what the specific form is, but but what it does is it gets like stains out of clothing. It's really used frequently by people with vintage clothing and like old christening gowns and things, like especially to get stains out of white things, like, and especially if it's like natural stuff that is on your thing. So wine is a prime example of this. So I like had that product overnighted to me. I'm like, okay, we're going to try the Retro Clean. And then if that doesn't work, we'll dye it and hopefully it will be dry in time for the wedding on Saturday. But the Retro Clean worked like a charm. Like it was
amazing.
Incredible. I made a big like pot of this stuff and they tell you like, if you can, to put it out in the sun to like let it heat up a little bit. So we actually put it on like the hot plate that we would have used if we were going to dye it.
Right.
And So just to get it a little bit warm, and they tell you, so I put like a little marker on the fabric where the stain was, just so that I'd remember and be able to find it easily when I wanted to check.
Right.
So I immersed it in this stuff and I left it for like an hour, and I was like, all right, let me go check. And I like pulled it out and I found the marker, and you could not see anything.
That's amazing.
It was perfect.
I will put that link under this YouTube posting.
This product is incredible. Like, it's great. Like, if you have like old heirloom quilts, like anything like that, that's like just gotten discolored with age, it's brilliant. This stuff is, I think it only works on natural fibers. Like, so you have to be like cotton or silk or whatever, but yeah, it's so great. So.
Wow. That piece of nugget of information right there is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great stuff.
And it was a beautiful dress, and it would have been beautiful if it was like a scarlet color also, but
no, I'm still planning to dye it, because then I'll just wear it for like other events.
Yeah. Are you still gonna dye it scarlet?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Or like burgundy probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of
amazing.
Yeah.
That's a story. Like, really?
Yeah.
Like,
I know, sorry, that was a really long story, but
no, but it was very interesting.
It was, it's suspense.
It's like, oh boy. Yeah. Scary. Well, I'm glad it all worked out. And
me too.
Amazing piece of information. I have somebody asked, and she didn't give me a name. I should not say she, I should say they. What was your first pattern published in a magazine?
Oh, it was a yoga mat bag that I, like a lacy yoga mat bag that I had in, I think it was Interweave Knits. It might have been Knit Scene, because that's also by Interweave. I think it was Interweave Knits.
Was it knit or crochet?
It was knit, actually. Which, I mean, honestly, like, it's not my best work. Like, at this point, I'm like, I mean, it was kind of saggy, like, I'm not sure, like, as a yoke, like, I feel like you would, like, if I were going to do it again now with 15 more years of experience, I would probably, like, I'd probably crochet it now, because I just think bags are better crocheted than knit. That's my opinion. Like, especially anything that's going to hold something heavy, like a yoga mat. But it was, it was okay. A few people, I mean, some people made it. There are projects of it on Ravelry, and like, I think, and it's, and it had like I-cord for the like straps. Like, I think it's functional. You probably just have to like pre-stretch everything, kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't think it was a disaster by any means.
Well, it made it into a magazine. I mean, you had to submit it, and they accepted it. So
exactly. I mean, I was like super excited, and I think it's attractive. Like, I think it's a nice project.
I'm gonna look it up now.
I think it was just called like lacy yoga mat bags.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I think it had like a few different stitch pattern options, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Or at least 2 or 3. Yeah.
That brings me right into, there was a question submitted and there was no name attached, but somebody wanted to know knitting or crochet, which is your preference?
Oh, I mean, that's like sort of like having to pick my favorite of my designs. Like, I actually learned how to crochet before several years before I learned how to knit. My grandmother taught me to crochet, which is weird because I don't remember my grandmother ever crocheting, and I don't remember ever seeing anything that she made, but she apparently knew how, because she taught me, probably just to like keep me occupied one day. Right. Yeah. And I would crochet a little like circle, like basically a disc, like in the round, and then I would like unravel it because I only had like one ball of yarn. So I learned how to crochet, and then as a teenager I learned how to knit, and I was definitely like much more into knitting for many years. But then once knitting became like my job, crochet, like I started crocheting more for fun, and now I do both for my job. So no, I really love them both equally. I think they just do different things well. I think for garments, I mean, I have some crocheted garments that I love, but I overall it's easier to make a successful knitted garment, especially because I find crochet gauge really tricky for some reason. I don't know why, but I think crochet, like, I actually really like crocheting doilies. Like, I like getting really intricate with it. But but yeah, I don't know. They're both great.
Is the sweater you're wearing one of your designs?
Yeah, this is actually one of the things that I made my first year at Berrocco. It's called Agave. All the yarns are discontinued. It would have been much more on brand for me to wear like a Berrocco thing in a yarn that you could get. But what I love about this yoke sweater is like when I designed this, I had designed a couple of yoga sweaters before, but this like particular style, like this kind of graphic style, was not really my wheelhouse exactly. And what I love about working on a design team is that Amy, gives us assignments, and she handed me a photograph of this like really graphic, big kind of collar necklace, and was like, interpret this as a yoke sweater. You can be as literal or not as you want.
It's like very sort of 1930s, 1920s Art Deco kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was great because I was like, it was such an exciting, and it was like the first time I had this experience of like her giving me this design assignment. And I was like, and producing work that I would never have made if I was just by myself designing as an independent designer, and I was like, oh, like I'm so lucky that I get to have this collaboration.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. I love it. Do you have a favorite, like right now in any new Berrocco yarns? Is there anything that you're particularly partial to that you just really love working with?
I mean, it's not new, but I love Remix Light. I mean, I love Remix Worsted also, but Remix Light, I feel like it's just, it makes such like an airy fabric, and I love that it is made out of recycled fibers. That's one of my favorites for sure. It's funny, I've been so focused on the fall stuff that is all of like yarns that I can't really talk about yet in public, that I'm like, what are our spring yarns? Like again, I'm like, oh, I worked on those like back like last summer. I don't even remember what they look like.
Trying to trick you up here and get some pre-information out of you. Oh wait, didn't talk about that. I love Remix. So I just finished a sweater like 2 days ago in Remix, and it's the first time I've knit with it. And I do love the whole thing that it's 100% recycled. I think that's awesome. And I wasn't sure how I was going to like it, but I really loved working with it. It really,
yeah. We're doing, we've been doing a knit along. It's like the Berrocco Cardi Party. And because we just wanted to do something like, we had a whole different knit along. Like actually we had a crochet along planned that was going to be like, that was just going to be starting like around now, I think.
Right.
But when everybody went on lockdown, we were like, let's do something now. Yeah. So we started, and we were like, let's make it really open-ended because, we don't know what people are going to be able to get.
Yeah.
So it's like you can knit any cardigan pattern. You just have to knit Berrocco yarns to be like technically part of the cal. Right. So, and a bunch of us have been knitting a design by my colleague Donna Yacino called Beach Rock. It's a cardigan in Remix. Here I have it right here. I'm almost done with mine. It's got this really cool like broken rib pattern. I put pockets in mine, so which isn't in the original pattern, but I made like a little tutorial.
Is that the worsted?
And that's the worsted, yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was in Portfolio Volume 5, which Portfolio, we're not doing it anymore right now, but we were doing a collaboration where we'd have these collections with independent designers. So that was from Portfolio 5.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to write down all of this stuff and get it up below.
Oh yeah.
Maybe checking in with you again later.
Absolutely. I can definitely like remind me what things you need, and you'll send me those.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I think we're kind of coming to the end of we're right on time here, which is great.
Cool. Last question, which has become the typical question to kind of end off with. What tea are you drinking? Is it a favorite, and why is it a favorite? Sure. Yeah. I think I have none left in my cup. I finished it all. But it was a green pear tea. And it's there's a shop, and this actually is another place in Providence that I adore. It's a shop called Shastia. Yeah. I used to think it was called Shasti, but it's actually Shastia. Okay. It's SCHASTEA, but the A has like a little funny thing over it. Anyway, they have beautiful teas, and it's a lovely little shop. When they did have like a dining room that you could go and sit in, not only do they have this beautiful tea menu, but they have like wine and some cocktails, and they have crepes. They have like really nice savory and sweet crepes. So yeah, and they have like in the back this lounge area, and I have a meetup group. It's actually a tarot card reading meetup group. It's like learning to read tarot cards. Yep. Random other thing that I do.
Something else we should talk about off camera. I definitely
have a lot of hobbies.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's something that's in my wheelhouse too.
Cool. Yeah, my tarot meetup group used to meet there in this lounge, and it's like so like perfect for that vibe. Like it's because it's got this like cool like bohemian chandelier. It's really great. It's a great place. But anyway, they still, even though the dining room is closed now, they're doing you still can get loose leaf tea from them. So I was like, at the very beginning, I was like, let me go get some tea. And so the green pear is one of my favorites, and I also really love, they have an Earl Grey lavender that I drink like almost every day. I drink that usually when I was in the office. I was drinking it every day in the office out of this mug, which I love this mug so much. My mother-in-law bought this for me, and it has stars on it, which is Star Island, the place that I was talking about. Blah blah blah, the cult. And I love this this mug so much that like the last time I had to like pop into the office to pick some stuff up, and I was like, let me bring my favorite mug home so I can have my tea in my favorite mug again.
While you're working. It's just
exactly. I mean, like I just need all the things to make my routine work.
I mean, people bringing home their chairs, and they're bringing home their computers, and you're grabbing your tea in your mug.
Yeah, after several weeks of sitting in a very uncomfortable chair, I said to my husband, like, I need to get a better office chair. And he was like, yeah, that's a good idea. You should do that. And he was like, well, what about the one in my office? Like, do you like, I wonder what brand that is. Maybe we can figure it out. And I was like, actually, that chair is mine. I'm like, you need to buy an office chair.
Yeah, you brought attention to that one.
Yeah, so he bought the chair, although I've actually been using the new chair instead of the old chair, but
that seems fair.
It's all good.
He's worn your chair out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Joining me in this chat. This is great. I'm going to get it up and post it to YouTube this evening, and it's sad that we couldn't do it live, but it's just as good. It's not going to be edited, which is like the whole point for me, is to not edit anything, so could go wrong. And it didn't, so we're good.
Yay.
So the takeaway from this is buy retro clean if you've got stains on your delicate natural fibers.
Yeah.
Visit Providence.
Yeah.
For sure. And knit something with the Berrocco remix, because, well, we both love it.
Yeah, I think these are all good guidelines.
I think that definitely is a good starting point.
Good suggestions for everyone listening to this.
Absolutely. And I'll post the links to all of it. I'll try to remember everything we talked about. All of the links to everything I'm going to post below the YouTube channel. So
cool.
We are in great shape. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. And that's it for this evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.